Jayden Daniels' Washington debut. What did you see?
Yeah, I saw him get the ball out of his hands quickly, not a ton downfield, and really started to settle in when he used his legs a little bit more, made some big plays with his feet. Again, the ball was coming out super quick, and I love the fact that he didn't put it in harm's way a ton. He was very smart with it. Washington's got to feel great about the start that Jayden had.
I thought he looked very good in the second half.
Oh, my God. I mean, he looked absolutely terrific.
Yeah.
The only thing I worry about him is so much running and things when he's a slender build guy. Now, that's smart.
Yeah.
Dive at the legs. That's smart. Do not slide. Dive at the legs will protect you more than sliding, Phil.
Okay. So I'm really curious to see, honestly, since this is the, rookie start, first week, I'm trying to get a feel for what the general consensus is of the Commanders fans. You guys know that I'm really high on the Commanders, especially Jayden and everything they're doing there. And I'm just really curious, like, how did this land? Because I know it wasn't super splash. I know it wasn't like, very flashy. It wasn't, a big splash type of week one performance, right? He didn't throw for 4 touchdowns, 350 yards, and, all that type of stuff. So I'm just curious how this landed, because the game at times got a little ugly. It felt like it was close at first, and then the Bucs really took command of that, especially with Baker Mayfield. And so I'm just curious how this game itself landed for you all, because I think it was a really great game, especially for Jayden's first start. I think he looked very comfortable throwing. I think the defense really hurt even Jayden. They never really put him in a good position to be able to take control of that game, at least in the capacity that Jayden's has the ability to as a rookie, as a first-year starter in his first game of his NFL career. I think it's a tall task when the Bucs offense is firing at all cylinders to then have Jayden just step up there and give them a fighting chance to win, right? I think the defense really, really let them down, which then just by domino effect really kind of hampers the offense. And I think this game then quickly turned into, let's just get Jayden comfortable. Let's just get him feel like he can start to get settled in the NFL. And I think in a lot of ways that's what they did. And I think the game plan itself wasn't terrible, right? 24, 7, as you can see on there, 17 for 24, which I think is great, because the Broncos had Bo Nix throwing like 40 something times or deep 30s. I forget exactly. And that to me is too much. That's asking too much from your quarterback too soon. And again, it's a different style game going up against different defenses, different game plans. But I just think that was kind of an appropriate way. I do think he relied too much on his legs, which I knew was going to happen in a lot of ways. I was optimistic that Cliff Kingsbury would hold that back a little bit, but we know these very young, athletic quarterbacks who can run, they almost always rely on their legs early on their career, because it's just being able to run and just being faster than the other guys is going to more easily translate into the NFL than developing as a quarterback. So I don't think it's the worst thing, but I just, I'm so on the fence with some of these situations, because on one side you say, hey, listen, rely on your legs. That's what's going to get you comfortable. That's what's going to get you feeling good, get you some momentum. On the other side, I think it can also, to a degree, hamper your development as an actual quarterback, which we kind of see happening with Lamar Jackson in real time, quite frankly. His legs are so dynamic, so explosive that he's able to literally be in the NFL because of it, but also because of it holds him back as a passer. And on one side, I'm kind of like, and I'm not saying that you should do this, especially with Jayden, but just be like, I don't want you to run. I want you to treat yourself as like a like you can't rip off for 88 yards, right? Like, I don't want you to do that. We really want to get you comfortable in the pocket, comfortable making these reads, going through your progressions, comfortable throwing the ball away, right? Checking the ball down, whatever it may be, rather than just constantly looking to run, because it's just too easy. It just becomes too much of a get out of jail free card, which I think can hamper you. And again, I'm just saying generally, I'm not saying that this was an issue with Jayden Daniels. I'm just saying in general with running quarterbacks. I do believe Cliff Kingsbury will do a good job to develop him well. But they also need a run game outside of Jayden, and that was also part of the problem. I feel we have quarterbacks who you are consistently relying on being your dominant run game and your passing game. I'm sorry, that just does not work out well. We've just never seen it work out well. And so they need to get the run game going outside of Jayden. He can run, and I want him to run. I'm not saying for him to not run. I'm not telling him to not use his legs, to not have that be a big part of his game either. But we see this with Josh Allen. We see this with Lamar Jackson. We saw this even kind of with Jalen Hurts to a degree. Like, it's just too much to ask of your quarterback to be the main rushing attack and the throwing attack. It's just too much. It's just too much on the plate for a quarterback in the NFL. I just think it burns them out. It physically wears them down. When you're running a lot, it then affects your passing. It's just tough. And so I really want to see the Commanders be able to become a little bit more balanced, which is interesting because, again, you look at that and I see, if you told me, hey, Jayden only was asked to throw for 24 times, I'm like, okay, that's great. But then when I see that he was then also the big running attack, I'm like, all right, I would have loved to see them be able to get something going outside of Jayden. As a quarterback, you need to be able to take plays off. You just do, especially as a running quarterback. You need to be able to just hand the ball off and get some yards, get 4, 5, 6, 7 yards. You need to. These guys are not, I know they're superhuman athletes, but they are human, right? At the end of the day. And so they need to be able to catch the breath, especially if Jayden runs rips off for a run. It's a lot. It's a lot to have your heart beating real fast. Your muscles were just explosively contracting. And then within like 15 seconds, you're immediately now calling hike and throwing. It's a lot. It's a lot. If you don't believe me, go for an all-out sprint for 10 seconds and dive into the grass. And then within 10 seconds, I want you to quickly go look at a book and try to read a page. Go see how good just reading something simple. Just read a page. Read Dr. Seuss. And you'll see like you're a little like, okay, like, I'm reading it, but like I'm not actually really paying attention to it. The pictures are a little bit like not as clear. And again, these athletes recover so much faster than you or I, but it's still something. It's still a slight decrease in performance. And I think that's probably the biggest issue why, when you're asking too much of your quarterback week in and week out, that it's not sustainable. There's a reason why these quarterbacks can't do it week after week after week. And so I don't want this to come off that I'm harping on the Commanders in any kind of way. I'm just trying to say I want to see a more sustainable game plan. I with Jayden, I see the future. Right, I see the Commanders righting this ship finally and being a really competitive top team in the NFL, and I want it to be sustainable. I don't want it to be in the short term. I don't want it to look like this, have some really exciting plays and moments and be like, okay, this is great, only for it to not last. And so I rather you figure that out now than have to figure it out later, because then you kind of turn into kind of what the Ravens are with Lamar Jackson. I don't know what you do with that right now, because Lamar Jackson is so dynamic, such an insane athlete, but then when you ask him to be a quarterback, he struggles. And I don't know what you do with that. I don't know how you move forward. I don't know if there's a coach that can fix that. I don't know if it's just that he keeps going up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and they're just a better team, and if they weren't around, then maybe the Ravens are running the NFL. Like, I just don't know what you do with that. But I do know if you can get a more balanced approach with Jayden and that offense, then you're going to be in a better shape, right? Again, I've said this in a previous video. Try to mirror your career off of more Patrick Mahomes, less Lamar Jackson, which I think in a way they did. It's just they need to get that run game more. I think if they get the run game better outside of Jayden and they get the defense, elevated, that's going to put them in a much, much, much more balanced approach that will open up the field for Jayden, his passing game in that way. And I think, though, at the end of the day, though, because again, I'm being extra hard just because I'm trying to be as nuanced as I can. Like I said, I've been super high on Jayden, and so I'm just trying to, look for the things that I need to see for this to continue to progress. But in terms of a first start, he looked incredibly comfortable. He looked more comfortable than many, regular starting NFL quarterbacks in the NFL. He was definitely one of the best rookies. Like, cause look at what Caleb did, right? Caleb looked disastrous. I mean, that start really couldn't have gone any worse. To me, it was really between Jayden and Bo Nix for great starts, and you probably would have to give it to Jayden over Bo Nix. I mean, I think Bo Nix looked really composed, which I'll talk about in a different video, but Jayden really minimized mistakes. And to me, more than anything, hopefully you didn't get turned off by the previous points that I made, the biggest thing that Jayden showed was he didn't really make any real bad mistakes. He also looked very composed. He didn't look overwhelmed in any moment like Caleb, which I think goes a long way, which I think shows kind of how he's ready for the moment, how prepared he was, and really how prepared both Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury got him, right? Like, he was just comfortable. And I think that showed, and I think that can go a long way to kind of build off of that. And who knows, maybe the Bucks were a better team than even I gave them credit for, and so this loss could not look as bad, and they could be going up against a division winner, maybe a higher team in the NFC. I don't necessarily believe so, but that could definitely be there. Their offense seemed to be potent, but I actually think that the Commanders' defense was really lacking, which again is also to be expected. Remember, this team was one of the worst teams last year. You can only make such a quick turnaround, and it's going to be during this season is when things start to turn around, and to maybe expect them to be turned around day one, week one, may have been a bridge too far. So I'm really still going to be closely watching the Commanders to see how they develop, how Jayden develops. But in terms of week one, first game, new coaches, new quarterback, new look, everything, I think it was actually a lot better than maybe the average person may have seen it. So that's why I'm really curious how you guys all see it, the true Commanders fans. Are you happy? Are you upset? Are you disappointed? Or you have mixed feelings? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.